The press briefing room was already crackling with tension before anyone spoke into a microphone. Not chaotic, not hostile, just tense in the way that happens when two political forces are about to collide on live television, and every reporter in the room can smell blood in the water. The CNN town hall was supposed to be routine. Jasmine Crockett, the Democratic Congresswoman from Texas, and Karoline Leavitt, the young Republican press secretary, were scheduled for a split-screen debate about immigration policy. It had been pitched as a civil discussion, a chance for both sides to present their views to the American people. But that was just the version the producers had sold. Behind the scenes, there were simmering resentments, carefully nursed grievances, and a powder keg of accusations waiting for a spark. The problem started during the pre-show briefing. Jasmine arrived at the CNN studios in Washington at 6:45 p.m., moving with the purposeful stride of someone who'd learned to navigate hostile territory without showing weakness. She wore what had become her signature look, a tailored navy suit, minimal jewelry except for her grandmother's gold cross necklace, and an expression that suggested she was ready for whatever came next. The show's executive producer, David Martinez, met her in the green room. Late 40s, graying temples, the kind of exhausted energy that comes from managing political firefights for a living. He didn't bother with pleasantries. David spoke first, his voice already strained. "Congresswoman, we need to go over some ground rules. Leavitt's team has been particular about the format." Jasmine responded, her tone measured. "Particular how?" David shifted uncomfortably as he explained. "They want strict time limits, no interruptions, and they've submitted a list of topics they consider off-limits." Jasmine smiled slightly, but it didn't reach her eyes. Her words came with a knowing edge. "Let me guess. January 6th? Trump's legal troubles?" Her own background. David's silence confirmed her suspicions. "Something like that." Sarah Walsh, the segment producer, entered with a tablet and a worried expression. Sarah's voice carried urgency. "We have a problem. Leavitt's demanding to go first on every question, and she wants final rebuttal rights." Jasmine leaned back in her chair, her response firm. "She wants to control the narrative." Smart. But this isn't her press briefing room. Tell her she gets the same rules I do, or she can explain to viewers why she walked away from a fair debate. 20 minutes later, Karoline Leavitt entered through a different entrance, flanked by two assistants and a personal videographer. At 27, she carried herself with the aggressive confidence of someone who'd learned that attacking first meant never having to defend. Her blonde hair was Fox News perfect, her red dress camera tested, her smile sharp enough to cut glass. The two women didn't interact before the show. They were kept in separate green rooms, separate makeup chairs, separate worlds. But the production staff shuttling between them could feel the electricity building. Anderson Cooper took his position at the moderator's desk at 7:55 p.m. The audience was packed with political junkies, reporters, and activists from both sides. The energy was more prize fight than policy discussion. Cooper's introduction set the tone, his voice carrying its trademark professionalism. Tonight, a discussion about America's future between two of the most prominent voices of their generation. Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas and White House Deputy Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt. "Ladies, welcome." They sat at desks 20 feet apart, close enough to make eye contact, far enough to prevent physical confrontation. The first 15 minutes were deceptively civil. Immigration statistics were quoted. Policy positions were stated. Both women stayed within their talking points. Then Cooper asked the question that lit the fuse. His voice remained neutral, professional. "Ms. Leavitt, your office recently stated that Congresswoman Crockett's immigration bill would destroy American communities. Can you elaborate?" Leavitt leaned forward, her smile widening. Her response dripped with calculated venom. "Absolutely, Anderson. The Crockett bill isn't just bad policy, it's dangerous policy. But what else would you expect from someone who built their career on defending criminals?" The audience stirred. Jasmine's expression didn't change, but her hand tightened slightly on her pen. Leavitt continued, her voice gaining momentum. "I mean, this is the same woman who made her living getting drug dealers and violent offenders back on the streets. Now she wants to open our borders to more of the same. The pattern is clear. Cooper turned to Jasmine. Congresswoman, your response. Jasmine's voice came calm and controlled. I was a public defender, Ms. Leavitt. I defended the Constitution. I ensured that every American, regardless of their circumstances, had their day in court. That's not a weakness. That's the foundation of our justice system. Leavitt's interruption was sharp. You defended a man who sold drugs to children. Jasmine's correction was immediate and precise. I defended a man who was accused of selling drugs. He was acquitted because the police had planted evidence. But I don't expect you to understand the difference between accusation and conviction. Your boss has trouble with that concept too. The audience reacted audibly. Some gasps, some laughs, some angry mutters. Leavitt's face flushed. Her next words would prove catastrophic. At least my boss wasn't disbarred. The room went silent. Even Cooper looked shocked. Jasmine turned slowly to face Leavitt directly. Jasmine's voice dropped dangerously low. Excuse me. Leavitt doubled down, her smile now predatory. Oh, did I hit a nerve? I'm just saying, people should know who they're taking legal advice from. Someone who couldn't even keep their own license. Jasmine stood up, her voice cutting through the studio. You need to stop talking. Right now. Cooper tried to intervene. Ladies, please. But Leavitt was rolling, her words tumbling out recklessly. What's wrong, Congresswoman? Don't like it when someone exposes your record? You spent years letting criminals walk free, and now you want to let illegals pour across our border. Maybe if you'd been better at your job. Jasmine's voice cut through like a blade. I have never been disbarred. Never been sanctioned. Never been disciplined. You just lied on national television about my professional record. That's not political spin, Ms. Leavitt. That's defamation. Leavitt waved dismissively, her tone mocking. Oh, please, going to sue me? How typical. Liberal elites always run to their lawyers when. Jasmine's response was simple and devastating. Yes, I am going to sue you. For defamation. For slander. For malicious intent to damage my professional reputation with knowingly false statements. She turned to the cameras. America, you just witnessed a federal official deliberately lying about my legal career. Every word she said was false, and she knows it. Cooper tried again to restore order. Perhaps we should take a commercial break. But Leavitt couldn't stop herself. She laughed, high and mocking. Go ahead, sue me. I'll countersue for frivolous litigation. You people always think you can intimidate. Jasmine's voice turned to ice. You people? Please, Ms. Leavitt. Finish that thought. Tell America exactly what you mean by you people. The silence that followed was deafening. Leavitt's face went from red to white. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. Leavitt tried to recover, stammering. I meant liberals. Liberal politicians who. Jasmine interrupted, her voice steady and damning. No, that's not what you meant. And everyone in this room knows it. But please, continue. Keep talking. My lawyers are going to love the footage. David Martinez was in the control room, frantically gesturing to Cooper through his earpiece. But the damage was done. The moment was already clipping, already spreading, already viral. Leavitt stood up abruptly, her voice defensive. This is ridiculous. I came here for a policy debate, not to be ambushed by theatrical accusations. Jasmine pulled out her phone, holding it up for the cameras to see. Her words were clear and deliberate. I'm calling my attorney right now. Mr. Benjamin Crump. You might have heard of him. He's very good at handling cases where powerful people lie about black professionals. Leavitt's assistant rushed on stage, whispering urgently in her ear. The color drained further from her face as she presumably learned what every first-year law student knows. Defamation of a public figure requires actual malice, and she'd just demonstrated it on live television. Cooper stood, trying one last time to salvage the segment. Ladies, surely we can. Jasmine turned to him, her voice respectful but firm. Anderson, I respect you and this network. But your guest just committed defamation per se by falsely claiming I was disbarred. That's an attack on my livelihood, my reputation, and my ability to serve my constituents. This isn't about politics anymore. This is about the law. She gathered her papers, her movements deliberate and controlled. Then she addressed the audience directly. Jasmine's words rang clear and powerful. For those watching at home, let me be crystal clear. I graduated from Howard University School of Law with honors. I passed the Texas bar exam on my first attempt. I served as a public defender for 7 years with an exemplary record. I have never been disbarred, suspended, or sanctioned. Ms. Leavitt knew this when she made her false statements. She lied because she thought she could get away with it. She was wrong. Leavitt tried one more attack, her voice shrill. Typical Democrat, always playing the victim. Jasmine turned back one final time, her words measured and lethal. Ms. Leavitt, I'm not a victim. I'm a plaintiff. There's a difference. You'll learn it soon enough. She walked off the stage with the same measured stride she'd entered with. Behind her, Leavitt stood frozen, her assistants huddling around her like a political MASH unit. The commercial break was chaos. Producers scrambled, lawyers were called, and Leavitt's team went into full crisis mode. The audience was buzzing, half in shock, half in admiration for what they'd just witnessed. In the green room, Jasmine was already on the phone with Ben Crump. Their conversation was brief and to the point. Crump's voice came through speakerphone, calm and interested. She really said you were disbarred? On live TV, Jasmine confirmed, her voice steady. Every major network has the footage. No ambiguity. No, I heard, or people say. She stated it as fact. Crump pressed for clarity. And it's completely false. Jasmine's response was firm. Ben, you know my record. Spotless. I have commendations from the Texas Bar Association. Crump's response was immediate and decisive. We file tomorrow. Defamation, slander, intentional infliction of emotional distress. Given her position and platform, I'd say damages in the range of 80 million. Jasmine didn't flinch. Do it. David Martinez appeared in the doorway, sweating through his shirt. His words came rushed and desperate. Congresswoman, please. Can we discuss this? Maybe we can arrange an on-air apology. Jasmine looked up at him, her response measured but final. David, your show invited both of us. You knew her history of making false claims. You gave her the platform. The time for apologies passed the moment she used that platform to lie about my legal career. Her phone buzzed with texts. Congressional colleagues, civil rights leaders, legal professionals. The clip was already everywhere, already being dissected, already becoming bigger than anyone had anticipated. An hour later, Jasmine stood outside the CNN building, facing an impromptu press gaggle. Reporters shouted questions, cameras flashed, microphones jutted forward like spears. One reporter's voice cut through the chaos. Congresswoman, are you really planning to sue for $80 million? Jasmine's response was direct and unwavering. My reputation took decades to build. Ms. Leavitt tried to destroy it in seconds with a malicious lie. 80 million might actually be conservative. Another reporter shouted a follow-up question. Don't you think this will distract from policy discussions? Jasmine's answer was sharp. You know what distracts from policy? When federal officials think they can lie with impunity. When they believe their position protects them from consequences. This isn't about politics. It's about truth. A third reporter asked about the racial undertones. She said, you people. Do you think? Jasmine raised her hand, cutting off speculation. America heard what she said. America saw her face when she said it. I don't need to interpret it. The words speak for themselves. Back in the studio, Karoline Leavitt was experiencing the political equivalent of a meltdown. Her phone wouldn't stop ringing. The White House was calling. Conservative media was calling. Her lawyer was calling. She tried to do damage control with a hasty tweet. Tonight's debate got heated. I regret if my words were misunderstood. I have great respect for all legal professionals who serve with integrity. But it was too late. Legal Twitter was already dissecting her statements. Law professors were explaining defamation law to their followers. The hashtag Leavitt lied was trending #1. By midnight, the story had exploded beyond political circles. Legal blogs analyzed the potential lawsuit. Communications experts discussed the PR disaster. Body language experts examined the moment Leavitt realized she'd crossed a line. The next morning, Jasmine held a press conference at her law firm's offices. She stood behind a podium, flanked by Ben Crump and 2 other attorneys. The room was packed. Jasmine's opening statement was powerful and precise. Yesterday, a federal official deliberately lied about my professional credentials on national television. This wasn't a mistake or a misunderstanding. It was a calculated attempt to destroy my credibility by falsely claiming I had been disbarred. She held up a folder. This contains my bar certification, letters of commendation from my time as a public defender, and testimonials from judges I've appeared before. My record is not just clean, it's exemplary. Crump took the podium next, his voice carrying the weight of experience. We filed suit this morning in the District Court for the District of Columbia. We're seeking $80 million in damages. This number reflects not just the harm to Congresswoman Crockett's reputation, but the need to send a message. Public officials cannot weaponize lies to destroy their opponents. The questions came fast and fierce. A reporter challenged the amount. Isn't $80 million excessive? Crump's response was sharp and immediate. Is truth excessive? Is accountability excessive? Ms. Leavitt has a platform that reaches millions. She used that platform to spread a lie that could have ended Congresswoman Crockett's career. We believe the damages should reflect the scope of the harm. Another reporter pressed about political motivations. Some are saying this is just political theater. Jasmine took the mic back, her voice cutting through the noise. You know what's political theater? Going on national TV and lying about someone's professional record because you're losing a debate. Filing a legitimate defamation suit. That's just law. Meanwhile, Karoline Leavitt was having the worst 24 hours of her political career. The White House issued a tepid statement about reviewing the matter. Conservative media allies were notably silent. Even her usual defenders struggled to spin outright defamation as acceptable political discourse. Her lawyer, Marcus Sterling, held an emergency press conference that afternoon. His statement was careful, lawyered to within an inch of its life. Sterling read from prepared notes, his voice lacking conviction. Ms. Leavitt's statements last night were based on information she believed to be accurate at the time. We are reviewing the situation and will respond to any legal filings appropriately. Reporters weren't buying it. One pressed immediately. What information? What source claimed Congresswoman Crockett was disbarred? Sterling's non-answer spoke volumes. We'll address all of this in our legal response. But behind the scenes, the panic was real. Leavitt's team knew they had no source, no basis, no defense. She had simply lied in the heat of the moment, and now faced the consequences. 3 days later, something unexpected happened. A group of Black women lawyers held a press conference in support of Jasmine. Over 50 attorneys stood together, each sharing stories of having their credentials questioned, their competence challenged, their achievements diminished. Judge Patricia Williams spoke for the group, her voice carrying decades of experience. What happened to Congresswoman Crockett happens to Black women lawyers every day. The difference is, this time it happened on national television. This time, there's proof. This time, there will be consequences. The lawsuit filing was a masterclass in legal writing. It laid out the facts simply, Leavitt's false statement, the lack of any basis for it, the damage to Crockett's reputation, and the malicious intent evident in the context. One paragraph stood out. Defendant's false statement that plaintiff had been disbarred was not mere hyperbole or political rhetoric. It was a specific, factual claim about plaintiff's professional standing, a claim that was demonstrably false and stated with reckless disregard for the truth. Legal experts weighed in across media platforms. Most agreed, Leavitt had walked into a legal buzzsaw. Proving defamation against a public figure was notoriously difficult, but she had managed to check every box. Professor Angela Davis from Georgetown Law explained on PBS, her analysis clinical. Leavitt didn't say I think, or I heard, or even allegedly. She stated as fact that Congresswoman Crockett had been disbarred. That's defamation per se. It's actually a textbook case. 2 weeks later, Leavitt's legal team filed their response. They tried various defenses, rhetorical hyperbole, heat of debate, substantial truth. None of them held water against the clear video evidence of a specific, false factual claim. The discovery phase promised to be brutal. Crockett's team would have access to Leavitt's emails, texts, and preparation materials. Any evidence of planning or discussion about attacking Crockett's legal credentials would demonstrate premeditation. A month into the legal proceedings, settlement talks began. Leavitt's insurance company, facing potential massive liability, pushed hard for resolution. The White House, dealing with its own scandals, wanted the distraction gone. But Jasmine wasn't interested in a quiet settlement. She told reporters outside the courthouse, her voice firm, "This isn't about money. It's about accountability. Ms. Leavitt needs to publicly apologize and acknowledge that she lied. The American people deserve to see that there are consequences for weaponizing falsehoods." The pressure mounted from all sides. Conservative donors worried about funding Leavitt's defense. Political allies distanced themselves. Even friendly media struggled to defend the indefensible. 3 months after that fateful night, Karoline Leavitt stood at a podium in a law firm conference room. She looked smaller somehow, her usual fierce confidence replaced by something closer to defeat. Leavitt read from a prepared statement, her voice flat and mechanical. "On the night of March 15th, I made false statements about Congresswoman Crockett's legal career. I stated that she had been disbarred. This was completely untrue. Congresswoman Crockett has an exemplary legal record and has never faced any professional sanctions. I apologize unreservedly for my false statements and the harm they caused." The settlement terms were sealed, but sources suggested it was substantial, enough to fund several of Crockett's community legal clinics for years to come. Jasmine held her own press conference afterward. Her statement was gracious but pointed. She spoke with quiet authority. "I accept Ms. Leavitt's apology. But this case was never just about me. It was about every professional woman who's had her credentials questioned by someone who couldn't match them. It was about showing that lies have consequences, even when, especially when, they come from positions of power." A reporter asked if she felt vindicated. Jasmine's response was thoughtful and measured. "I feel grateful. Grateful for the legal system that allowed me to seek justice. Grateful for the colleagues who stood with me. And grateful that we've shown, once again, that truth matters more than political theater." The case became a cautionary tale in political communications. Campaign schools taught it as an example of what not to do. Law schools used it to illustrate defamation law. It even made its way into media training. "Don't pull a Leavitt" became shorthand for making false claims you couldn't support. Karoline Leavitt's political career never fully recovered. She left the White House shortly after the settlement, her reputation as a fierce advocate replaced by her infamy as someone who lied and paid the price. Jasmine Crockett, on the other hand, saw her star rise. She became a sought-after speaker on legal ethics and women's rights. The settlement funds established the Crockett Foundation for Legal Truth, providing scholarships for young women pursuing legal careers. A year later, Jasmine gave a speech at Howard Law School. She told the students about that night, about the moment Leavitt lied, about the decision to fight back. Her words resonated through the auditorium. "Sometimes, people will try to tear you down with lies because they can't compete with your truth. When that happens, you have a choice. You can let it go, or you can stand up and say no. Not today. Not to me. I chose to stand. I hope you will too." The students gave her a standing ovation. Among them was a young woman who had watched the original debate live, who had seen what happened when someone tried to destroy a black woman's achievements with lies, and who had decided that night to become a lawyer herself. The truth had won. It had cost $80 million in months of legal battles, but it had won. And in a world where lies travel faster than ever before, that victory mattered more than anyone could have imagined. Because Jasmine Crockett had proven something important that night. When someone lies about your truth, you don't just defend it. You make them pay for it. If this story of a woman who refused to let lies destroy her truth moved you, if it reminded you that standing up to defamation takes courage but delivers justice, then subscribe. Because in an era where public figures think they can say anything without consequences, we need more stories like this. Jasmine Crockett showed us that night what real strength looks like. Not letting a lie slide, not accepting false attacks on your character, but standing up and demanding accountability. Subscribe for more stories of people who fight back against falsehoods, who prove that truth isn't just a principle. It's a weapon against those who would destroy reputations with reckless lies.